Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman.
Good morning, everyone. Please remain standing while I ask Reverend John Davis to lead us in morning prayer.
So let us pray. Almighty God, you call us, the people, to pray for our elected councillors. And so we pray for all members of this county council, the controlling group and those in opposition, that in all their undertakings, deliberations and decisions, they will serve the common good for the benefit of all people of this county. We pray for those employed by this council that their work in support of this council will be fulfilling and rewarding. And at this season of goodwill, as we wait to welcome again the Prince of Peace into our lives, we pray for peace and justice throughout the world. We pray for peace, reconciliation, and forgiveness among all peoples of goodwill to enable God's kingdom to grow in our lives. And we ask this in the name of the one who came to serve, not to be served, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And so I invite you, if you wish to do so, to join with me in that prayer that our Lord gave us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Please be seated. All right. Before we start the meeting, I would remind all members of the need to comply with the Council's procedural standing orders, and in particular the following provisions. Where a member breaches procedural standing orders on their speech, contains irrelevancies or tedious repetition, the Chairman may call on that member to cease their speech and to sit down. If the member continues to disregard the authority of the Chairman may ask them to leave the chamber for the remainder of the meeting, and if they fail to do so, order their removal. The Chairman will invite members to speak in the order he thinks fit. When invited to speak, a member should stand and address the Chair. Other members will remain seated unless rising on a point of order or in personal explanation. Whenever the Chairman speaks, no member will continue standing and no members will rise until the Chairman has finished speaking. No member may question another member's motive or use offensive expressions to any member of the Council or officer. A member will not speak more than once on any item or motion except to make a point of order, personal explanation, or in the exercise of a right to reply. A member may rise at any time to make a point of order or a personal explanation and will be entitled to be heard immediately. The decision of the Chairman on all points of procedure and order and their interpretation of these standing orders will be final. The Chairman will have the discretion to vary the procedure at any meeting and where they consider it would be conducive to the effective management or conduct of the business at the meeting. This meeting recognises Councillor Murray as acting leader in accordance with the Council's Constitution, Section 6, Standing Order 4.2. Moving on to item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Council. Yes, I have 4 apologies for absence. They are Councillor Cooper, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Munro and Councillor Wildman.
Thank you. Are there any further apologies? Right. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare an interest?
So I'd like to declare an interest in SEND. I have a family member who works within SEND School and SEND Provision.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Item 3, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. We have 3 sets of minutes to confirm. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on October the 9th, 2025 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? B, I move that the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 9th of October 25 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? And I move that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 23rd of October 25 be signed as a true record. Is that agreed? Item 4, Chairman's Correspondence. Moving on to item 4, Chairman's Correspondence. Staffordshire organisations honoured in the King's Awards for Voluntary Service. I'm sure that members will wish to join me in extending the Council's congratulations to the 5 voluntary organisations from Staffordshire who have been awarded the King's Award for Voluntary Service in this year's honours. This prestigious award recognises outstanding work by volunteer groups, charities and organisations who benefit their local communities. It was created in 2002 to celebrate Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee, and following his accession, His Majesty the King emphasised his desire to continue the award. The winning groups this year include Shenston Community Library Association, Simon's Heroes, Stafford and District Bereavement and Loss Service, Tamworth Wellbeing and Cancer Support Service, and At 21 Leek Town Centre Project. Item 5, Statement of the Leader of the Council. Councillor Murray, will you move the consideration of the statement, please?
I move to the consideration of the statement, but I'd also like to make an introduction, if I may, Chair. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As the new acting leader of this council, I wanted to stand up today and speak directly to you all. It's to all my fellow councillors. It's to the officers, all the staff who work so hard within our county council. It's to the public gallery, all those watching online. Primarily, I'm speaking to the people of Staffordshire. My role is clear. It's to provide stability, protect the integrity of this council and ensure that Staffordshire continues to be governed responsibly. I will uphold the values of this county to protect our communities, to ensure that Staffordshire remains strong, united and respected. Most importantly, we will continue to deliver services without disruption, and we will do so with professionalism and dignity. I stood as a councillor to represent my community, not just in Cannock, but across the whole of our county and our country, to deliver a strong and more successful Staffordshire, a place where every single person has the opportunity to build the best life for themselves and their families, a county where businesses can thrive. My commitment to do this remains as resolute as ever. It has certainly been a difficult few days for this council, and I truly do recognise the strength of feelings surrounding recent events. But please, do not forget all the positive and frankly groundbreaking great work we are doing here in this council. It's important. And that we are united together to deliver our ambitious plans that will make Staffordshire the beating heart of this country once again. And I want to make it absolutely clear here today that I condemn any form of racism and hate on any platform. While we may not always share the same views or beliefs with our friends, our families, and definitely our politics at times, it is imperative that we all both listen and respect those views. Yes, raise your concerns, but use proper channels. We must all, and I mean every one of us, stop this visceral name-calling, the use of language and tropes that labels whole groups together. It's not just offensive, it is dangerous. It is dangerous to all serving politicians. Our own recent history has shown us just how dangerous that can be. Let us also not forget, it's more than just the personal group you aim it at. It affects their family, their children, their grandchildren, and not one of us wants that. As elected councillors, it is our role to lead by example. So I'll say again, yes, hold us to account. Challenge and complain where right to do so, but do it through the proper channels, allowing time for due process. And I will assure you now, complaints of this nature about any councillor will be fully considered as part of the standards complaint process and our code of conduct. And once due process has been completed, as interim leader of this reform group and of this county council, any member proven to be flouting these high standards will also be held accountable by me swiftly and decisively. I've only been acting leader now for 48 hours. My priority now is to focus on our plans for making this amazing county and to support not only our councillors, but all the amazing staff who work tirelessly across Staffordshire County Council, delivering the services you deserve. So please, let's move forward together, united in our purpose and ambition for Staffordshire, but also respectful of the diversity of views and the need for open, honest debate. Thank you all.
Thank you. Councillor Philip White.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Firstly, I'll welcome Councillor Murray to his place. I and all of my colleagues wish you well in your role, Councillor Murray. We have never needed good leadership more than we do right now. I never thought that my life in politics would involve standing up and speaking on the issues that we have to speak about today. And I never thought that our county of Staffordshire would be dragged into the dark, dark place that it has been in the last few months. A leader of the council who has resigned in a racism scandal. A cabinet member sat on those benches over there who has made the foulest and most offensive comments about ethnic minorities, about gay people, calling the police scum, interacting with Britain First. Astonishing, another cabinet member whose social media accounts have similar content on them. I welcome your condemnation of racism, leader, but those words will ring hollow if there is not action on these matters. There should have been action already. I'm astonished that we still have a cabinet member present who has admitted to making these sort of remarks. We need that action. We cannot move forwards as a council until these issues are dealt with. We cannot pretend it is business as usual. We're going to go through this council meeting now, but we all know this is hanging over us. And colleagues, there are 47 reform councillors in this council, not a single one of whom has spoken about this, not a word of condemnation. Until all of those councillors speak out, you are condoning this. Any of you who rise to speak today, you should condemn this. Staffordshire is a kind and tolerant place. We should have no place for racism and bigotry in our politics. It should reflect the people of Staffordshire. Today is a day of shame for this council. We need to deal with this, colleagues, and we need to show the people of Staffordshire that this is not us.
Councillor Jack Rose.
Thank you, Chair. I could spend my time here today recounting the times I've been personally attacked and insulted by Councillor Cooper, the nasty comments, the petty name calling. I could say, like others, how appalled I am at the atrocious and extremist views that Councillor Cooper follows. However, we give far too much time to the far right in this country already, and I'm interested in highlighting the contributions of the people attacked by Councillor Cooper and those he chooses to follow. The business owners who run restaurants and shops in our towns with authentic cuisine and artisan crafts. The diversity in our local schools and communities. The shared goals of wishing well for our families and wanting to live in a healthy environment. Those that have arrived from just over the border, perhaps, in Derbyshire or France, depending on how you phrase it. Those that have arrived from all over the world who have made Staffordshire, this great county, their home. Staffordshire is a beautiful, diverse and historic county. It is steeped in history and has an even brighter future. Staffordshire and its residents deserve respectful, strong leadership, grounded in values of community, solidarity and respect. Every time we excuse racist views and derogatory language, we take a step in the wrong direction. Any member of this council who shares extremist and racially aggravated views should consider their resignation today. Division and hate are not welcome in this country, never mind in public life. I'd like to end my speech with a question to all Reform councillors. Do the racist, misogynistic remarks made by Councillors Cooper, Mason, Large and Allen speak for you all? How many more harbour these toxic beliefs? If Councillors Mason, Large and Allen are allowed to remain in a Reform group, they will taint you all with their bigotry and bring this wonderful council further into disrepute. Councillor Cooper should not be the only one tendering his resignation as a councillor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. The leaders of the opposition have spoken. I'm going to move this on now. Part 1 of the statement of items 1 to 7 are for debate. Items 8 to 13 in Part 2 of the statement are for information only and no debate is allowed on them. Part 1, Local Government Reorganisation. No speaker. Thank you. Anyone? All right. So, Councillor Tagg, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I'd just like to associate myself with the comments of the Leader of the Opposition and the member in front. I think the upheavals of the last week have been a disgrace for this council. I've been on this authority since 2007, the longest serving member. I've never seen a week on this county council. It brings shame on our county, and I completely agree with the previous comments. Moving to this item, local government reorganisation, I think the acting leader and myself share a lot of views on this, as this whole council did. We all wrote, didn't we, to the government asking for this whole procedure to be cancelled, to be looked at again, and for us allowed to get on and govern for the people of Staffordshire and the districts to carry on the work that they do. One of the things which we do share common ground on is devolution. We want to see devolution. We're being denied that devolution at the moment by the government, why it messes around with boundaries of councils. Also, elected mayors have been attached to the devolution agenda, strategic authorities, and I was really concerned recently that the government voted through in Parliament that precepts for elected mayors would have no cap on them, and also that their money, which they raised, would not necessarily have to be spent on services which were under the remit of the mayor. That, for me, opens up a whole can of worms on council tax increases and use of money outside of the remit of the mayor's responsibility. I support devolution, but I don't support that mayoral approach. And I think what we have is enough tax in Staffordshire and in the districts at the moment, and I don't see the need for a further layer of tax through an elected mayor, which you can see the precept rising without any caps upon it. I don't think people actually realise that devolution is a good thing, but when the government attach these sort of things to them, I think it's all about tax raising. So I would ask obviously the acting leader for his views on that and whether he would support obviously making representations to the government against a tax-free, tax-raising mayoral authority
rather than real devolution, which brings powers back to the local councils we've got at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Simply, I would like to echo the condemnations, what has been said before. And I hope, Mr. Chairman, I always say my glass is half full. Moving forward, people will do the right thing and people will consider their positions. Yes, I would like to say, in our country, and especially in our county, also in public life, this racism and discrimination should not be come along. Mr. Chairman, the esteemed colleague mentioned about the letter sending to the number 10 Downing Street before. I just would like to put a point of clarifications in there for your indulgence. I wholeheartedly would like to express my displeasure that it is been told that I have signed a letter. I haven't had a chance to read the letter at all. I have no idea about the context of the letter at all. I was expecting a common courtesy to show me the letter before they put in my name. I hope the interim leader will look into this one and give me the proper explanations why it has been told that I have signed the letter. Yes, I suggested the letter, but I have the right as a common courtesy to know what's in that before people say that I have signed it. This is completely and simply a misleading statement. I have the right to know before I sign. And if people said that my name is in there, I haven't done it so. So as Mr. Chairman, you are the guardian of this place. I hope you will look after my dignity as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Councillor Murray, would you like to respond?
It's the first point to Councillor Tagg. I mentioned this earlier, it's where we must work together on. And we are in alignment on the devolution for the whole of Staffordshire. And we do totally all agree on the LGR model that is proposed is unworkable. And again, I'll agree, the unlimited precept that has now been agreed, without need to show where it is to be spent. It's a way that the central government can say, we're not putting up your council tax. It's their precept they've increased, but there's no limit to how much they can add. They can add 10%, 15%, whatever you want. Your council tax gone up, but the central government can say, no, we did not do it. Yes, you did. My bigger concern with devolution, they have already cancelled mayoral elections 2008 going forwards. Will we ever have democracy under this government we have right now as they keep cancelling elections on us? This is further work we do together because I think there is a great cohesive agreement within these chambers on our belief for Staffordshire. And that we will work with together going forwards. So I think there is great agreement with all of us on that one. On to the letter. Now, I'm sure that every single person got a copy of that letter, but I would like to go to look for clarification on that. But I was pretty sure that everybody had it. If I can please go to clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Moving on to item 2, the budget. Councillor Greatrix.
Thank you, Chairman. You made a vain attempt to try and move on from the main subject that people are here to listen. The gallery and the media are very interested in the toings and froings of what's gone on with the Cabinet. And it's very difficult to discuss the budget because we have an issue where Councillor Murray has said, and I've quoted what he said this morning, we should uphold the values, we should maintain high standards, we should lead by example, and we should be held to account. Well, we can't hold you to account, Reform, in the way you've set this budget, because Councillor Large is the Member for Finance, and he's one of the 3 people who have attracted media attention to this council.
And the very thing that Councillor Philip White has referred to is an environment that we sit in. So here we are attempting to discuss a budget when everybody's interest is in what Staffordshire is saying about its racism, its sexism, and its misogyny, and its anti-trans views, its anti-gay views. There are people in the Cabinet who shouldn't be members of this council. That is the problem that we're facing. So to set a budget is made difficult by that environment. It's also made difficult by the fact that we don't have a draft budget at this stage. Some of us who've been involved in this for a long time know that the MTFS group provides something by this stage in the year so that we've got a draft budget to consider. I presume there's a good reason why this is delayed. One of the reasons might be the reform cabinet is collapsing as we see it.
Sorry, Councillor Greatrix, a point of order from Councillor Murray.
This is not the place for that right now. Sorry, my apologies. This is on the leader's statement. This is not going back over your own free will to raise your own points right now. These should be points on the leader's statement, not on your own free speech statement to go out on what you're making. It is on point of order on the leader's statement. If I may have clarification on that, should stick to the statement.
Councillor Greatrix, would you like to?
Yes, Chairman, I'm on item 2 of the leader's statement, which is the budget, and I'm saying why we're not in a position to even consider this. We've got 2 lines of information here. We don't have a draft budget, and we have an environment where the media is searching out people like Councillor Large, and we don't know whether he's going to be around in January when we get the chance to discuss the budget next. Unfortunately, we're behind the timescale in terms of when we should be discussing the budget. And members might want to sit back and just hope this blows away. But this is your council. This is your non-setting of the budget. At this stage in the year, we should be a lot farther forward. And the reason we're not are the reasons I've explained. It's ineptitude in terms of the Cabinet, and I presume some of the problems that the Cabinet are facing.
Councillor Murray.
We have procedure in these chambers. It does not give free will or opportunity to make full-on political statements. We know the procedure within here. We clarified it, the Chair clarified this at the very start of these proceedings today. I should expect all of us to respect that clarification that we held and the order of business to which should be. As I mentioned earlier, there are lots of things that are going on in the media and around with people's honest mistakes. And there is security infringement on accounts. But this is not the place to generate further. Your words can matter, and I mentioned earlier the danger in where that can go. It has far more reach and effects. It belongs in due process, and due process is where it should go through first. Let's keep it where it belongs before this gets seriously out of hand. And our history tells us where that can go next. So let's please remain back to the procedure which was stipulated at the very beginning of today's meeting.
Councillor Chris Large, is it a point of personal clarification? Oh, well, I can't we have to move on then. Okay. Moving on to item 3, SEND funding and the local government finance settlement. Councillor Pert.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, fellow councillors. I'd like to associate myself with comments from the Leader of the Opposition. I've worked in communities for the last 25 years. We've built a council that people were proud to work for, and we desperately need to get back to that point. I love the county, I love the people that I serve, and we need to get all of us back to that point. In terms of the item that is under discussion, the SEND funding, I welcome the fact that the government is looking to provide funding for SEND centrally, because that is one of the fundamental risks that this council faces as it goes forward. And anyone who's looked at the finances and understands the DSG will understand the risks that are there. But I'd like to ask the Cabinet Member for Health and Care whether he is lobbying for social care to receive the same central funding. Because if SEND is one of the fundamental risks within the council, one of the others is the growing ageing population within this county and across many parts of the country, and the funding costs that frankly are growing and growing year by year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murray?
Thank you. As I declared earlier, I do have a conflict on the SEND issue. If any specific point you wish, please send it to in writing and our Cabinet lead will reply to you straight away. It's a seriously important topic for us all, especially over here, and we will do everything for our children and adults coming through that. Thank you.
Moving on to item 4, strategic plan. No speakers? Oh, sorry. Excuse me, please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Meeting suspended. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Please be seated. I hope you've all enjoyed your lunch. I thought I'd put my lucky tie on today, but apparently not. Back to the leader's statement. Item number 4, strategic plan. Councillor Alex Farrell.
Chairman, welcome back everybody. I think that this strategic plan is important. This council needs a proper, serious plan to deal with what unfortunately has happened to this council and Staffordshire over the last few weeks, exemplified by what we saw today. Out of interest, I think it's important that we say thank you to the staff, the security and the police who have helped us today. Peaceful protest is really important, Mr. Chairman. Protest is part of our democracy. And, you know, we condone all forms of violence and intimidation, but we should, as councillors on all sides, be happy to be scrutinised wherever needed. Councillor Murray mentioned earlier that some words I think is really important that we take into account today. Integrity, respect, professionalism.
Point of order, please, Councillor Farrell.
I'll hear it.
This is how this all
Murray, could you
started.
stand up, please?
This is how this all started.
What's the point of order?
Cannot stick to the process. You have to take it to that place again straight away. And it was in my statement right at the very beginning about the consequence of actions of all of us. And we have seen, and I mentioned it, the real dangers this has. Somebody was assaulted in this room. Actions, process must be adhered to. Stick to what the points are. We are on the leader's statement. Stick to the leader's statement.
Councillor Farrell.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I'm talking about strategy of this council, and this is point 4, strategic plan. Political debate is not to be stifled here in Staffordshire, so just because we might disagree with you and oppose because we are the opposition doesn't mean we shouldn't be allowed to say it. So I'll carry on to talk about the strategic plan, and the words that Councillor Murray mentioned in the beginning of the council meeting today are important for our strategy, because moving forwards, we need to approach politics in Staffordshire in a very different way. Shame and a shadow has come upon this council because of the behaviour.
Sorry.
I'm talking about strategy,
an absolute
Mr.
point
Chairman,
of order
so I'm going to continue.
Please.
I'll make it again.
Mr. Chairman, is it?
Can you both please sit down? I'll just take counsel. Councillor Farrell, can you please confine your points to the strategic plan, please?
I am going to, Mr. Chairman, and I am trying my best to talk about strategy and a strategic plan. And it's really important as a council we understand who is delivering this strategic plan, because as it currently sits, we have chaos in the cabinet. We have.
Councillor Farrell, I'll ask you to sit down and not comment any further. So please, can you stick to the...
The problem is, Mr. Chairman, is I feel like democratic debate is being stifled in this chamber. I'm talking about strategy.
I'm sorry, please sit down. I will not hear you now.
So I'm being shouted down by
Councillor Farrell, I'll ask you to be removed from the chamber.
Clearly you don't want democracy to happen.
Moving on to item 5, Small Business Saturday. No comment. Right. Moving on to item 6, Christmas. And now moving on to item 8, Staffordshire means business. Oh, sorry, 7, 2026. Item 8, Staffordshire means business. Sorry, one moment. Right, moving on to part 2, summary of cabinet decisions. These are for information only. No debate is allowed. So item 8, Staffordshire means business. Okay, we're moving on to item 6, notice of motion. Councillor Miners.
Move the following motion.
I'm still on here. No. I've been told from the start that there'll be no comment on those.
No comment.
Let me please consult
Thank you very much.
officers. Thank you.
Council, so ... This council's not debated the following words after where it says this council. So what's happening is the Reform Group are making its policy and rubber stamping it through these reports. We have to be able to challenge that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this information has been out from day one. You've had time to question it, and you've not done so. So we are going to move on.
Excuse me.
Right. At item 5, I clearly stated, part 1 of the statement, items 1 to 7 are for debate. Items 8 to 13 in part 2 of the statement are for information only, and no debate is allowed on them. And we're sticking to that.
Could I not speak, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry. You've spoken enough, and my decision is final, and the office.
It's very positiveness about Staffordshire, so I'm really disappointed that I haven't been positive about the new leader and positive about Staffordshire. So I'm very disappointed.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Okay, so yes, we did have time to question this, and it was questioned. It was questioned before the meeting by my leader of my group, with the chief executive, I believe, or otherwise the county solicitor, and we were told that yes, even though it says no debate, we are allowed to state our case. Now, suppose you were to put something on here that said that you're going to put council tax up by 5%, and we couldn't debate it. Can you please explain to me how that's democratic, this county? Thank you.
Councillor Greatex, please, can you sit down, please? Please. Pat Flaherty now would like to speak. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Councillors, it's unusual that I would usually speak, but on the basis that I was quoted, just to issue a clarification to the room, if I may. In terms of the agenda and the statements, the statement by the chairman at the beginning of this item, he was very clear that Part A would be an issue for a debate, and that Part B would be issues for information only, which therefore would not be subject to a debate. What I would like to do, though, is to clarify the advice which I believe I've been consistent in throughout. Let me just put this by way of context. The context would be that asked on numerous instances, whether the questions coming forward in the leader's statements have to be in relation to the items in that statement, or whether they can roam, indeed whether they even need to be questions in their own right. I think I've been very clear to state, and this is the standing orders, standing order 9 in the leader's statements, and I'll refer you to clause or paragraph 9.4. It states that during the debate of the leader's statements, a member of the council may speak on any matter relating to the work of the executive, including any matter not referred to in the leader's statements, whether or not they move anything in relation to it. In short, anything can be raised in this chamber, and it need not be a question, although it can be within the leader's statements. I'm very clear on that, and that's the advice that I've given. However, we've also been, the chairman was also clear that debate would be allowed, which would include in accordance with clause 9.4, so that could be freely roaming debate or questions during part 1. I'll call it part 1. If it's part A, excuse me, during part 1 of the leader's statement. However, the chairman was very clear that the debate would not continue into part 2, which was for information over. So I do believe we've been consistent, and I do believe the chairman has been clear. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, going back to item 6, notice of motion. Councillor Miners, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of motion. This council recognises that renewable energy technologies are an important element of energy infrastructure in the United Kingdom. I'll repeat that sentence. This council recognises that renewable energy technologies are an important element of energy infrastructure in the United Kingdom. However, we have concerns about the apparent ad hoc distribution of renewable energy generation and storage infrastructure around the country, and especially within Staffordshire. There is no national or regional plan that sets out best locations for infrastructure that balances all land use and community requirements. It is notable, renewable energy and storage system applications appear to be predominantly in rural areas and often on existing farmland, at a time when food security is a national priority. The lack of national and regional infrastructure plans means that we're being forced to make a choice between food and energy security. We believe that we should have both. For the county council-owned farmland, we do not support the provision of renewable energy production and storage until we are satisfied that the government has provided a much more coherent policy position to address the many conflicts. We support the decision of the Cabinet at the meeting on the 19th of November 2025 that the County Council, which owns a successful county farms estate. We will not be allowing renewable energy production and battery energy storage systems development on farmland within its property portfolio unless it does not significantly impact agriculture, dairy, livestock farming, i.e. we're quite welcoming to have them on grain, cattle sheds and such like. We note that the fire service nationally has said that this best infrastructure does not present a specific fire risk, but once a fire does occur, they are very difficult to manage. Given the industrial and hazardous nature of these facilities, the County Council believes the government should bring BESS into the environmental permit licensing regime. Accordingly, this Council supports the decision of the Cabinet that they're meeting on the 19th of November 2025 that A, the County Council takes the position in respect of government policy related to renewable energy and battery energy storage systems as set out in the paragraphs 24 to 31 of that report. B, that the contents of this paper be noted and that Councillor Andrew Miners will be requested to articulate these concerns back to government to urgently address by way of government producing a coherent policy and strategy plan for England. And that C, in addition to the above points, it be agreed that through our devolution discussions with government, we will be asked for consideration to be given regarding the benefits of securing a strategic relationship with Great British Energy so that local area has better oversight of the market and that any community benefits, bill discount schemes or other form of planning levies to be retained locally, e.g. energy infrastructure levies. Thank you.
Is there a seconder?
Proposal. And Chair, I reserve the right to speak.
Okay. Councillor Jack Rose.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to offer my support for this motion. I absolutely agree that productive agricultural land is not the right place for energy production. When we talk of sustainability, it is not just for energy, but for the cornerstone of civilization itself, food. I am glad that the Cabinet member has explicitly said he will support energy production on spaces with limited value, such as roofs of agricultural buildings. But I want this motion to go slightly further. I would like to propose an amendment to this motion that would read as follows. D, that the Cabinet further investigates renewable energy production and initiatives, e.g. solar panels, on council-owned car parks, buildings and other suitable sites. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Miners, would you like to respond? Oh, sorry, one moment. Do you have a written motion to hand over to me? No. Councillor Rose, please can you put that in writing and also get a seconder as well, please. Thank you. Councillor Jill Hood. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jim. There'll just be a short delay while Councillor Rose writes his amendment.
About actually who owns the car parks that we're talking about. They're not owned by the council. So perhaps we'd better go and have a look actually who is owning all of the car parks. So the county farms, we're owning them. Thank you.
Just everybody to be quiet.
No. to read out the motion.
It's okay, we'll just read out the addition.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. For the purposes of the debate, the motion proposed, the amendment to the motion proposed is that the Cabinet further investigates renewable energy production and initiatives, e.g. solar panels on council-owned car parks, building and other suitable sites. On a point of clarity on the motion, standing order, paragraph 11.4 provides that notice of motion may relate to any issue that affects those who live or work in the council's area, but will not propose any decision or action by the council, which is the responsibility of the Cabinet to take. So the matter needs to be opened for debate on that point.
This is open for debate only on the additional point. Simon Tagg, is that?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, on the amendment, I broadly support basically the intention of the motion and the amendment, but I would think something is missing from the, typical word salami that we've had from the portfolio holder in the original motion, and that is working in partnership. I think, as has been pointed out in the amendment, we are looking at car parks. Well, most of those are not owned by the county council. They come under other authorities or even private car park owners. So I would urge, if we do support this motion, is that partnership needs to be the key to this. And the Reform Administration, Mr Chairman, was bequeathed the Sustainability Board, which involves all the councils across Staffordshire and the City of Stoke-on-Trent. That is the forum where we need to take this forward, because we do need energy security, we do need renewables, we also need food security. But at the moment we've got obviously a motion before us that's just been amended with where's the evidence of the haddock distribution at the moment? Food security versus energy security, there's no evidence that Staffordshire's position on that at all. County farms policy, we hear of the county farms and sticking the flags in the ground for the county farms, but what is the policy on if some of those want to come forward for renewable energy projects in the future? And I think also we talked about this, and I do sometimes laugh, Mr Chairman, when I hear the Great British Energy mentioned, which as far as I can see has been an unmitigated disaster by this government so far, employing hundreds of people and not actually achieving anything. We wait and see whether Ed Miliband delivers, but I don't think so. So, again, lobbying the government, yes, but are we lobbying the government that's actually got a sound policy on this? We don't know. So I think looking at the motion and the amendment, I'm not convinced that we've got it right in the motion or the amendment, because there's no partnership working, which I think a lot of this relies upon locally and also nationally. But I think the general thrust of it is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wallins.
Thank you, Chair. And just to reiterate what Councillor Tagg said about how car parks mainly owned by districts and boroughs, maybe Councillor Rose is barking up the wrong tree and should reconsider his amended motion and go to the right appropriate trees to bark up. Wouldn't you agree? Thank you.
Councillor Miners, do you have any more response? Do you want to clarify your response, or you?
I respond to Councillor Tagg. Thank you very much, Chair. I do agree that we are helping to try, we wanted to write to the central government as per the document that we had on the 19th of November. And here I would like to draw attention to paragraph 26, where we said that the Staffordshire County Council has to produce a spatial development strategy. So I agree with your comments also about the Great British Energy and where that's been driven. Hopefully we were looking for some clarity on where that's going. It does seem to be a mess. And we're also waiting for the UK Planning and Infrastructure Bill 2025, new homes and critical infrastructure, energy and transport, and streamlining the planning rules and nature recovery funds. There's a number of things here, and we were watching, perhaps yesterday, Mr. Ed Miliband on the television talk about the next COP21, and it says here in a newspaper article, I'd like to quote, the Cabinet is split over solar farms near Ed Miliband's constituency. And even the Cabinet is split there. And there's comments even from the Conservative government talking about a shocking display of double standards by the Labour ministers that will, people who have to face their communities ruined by sprawling solar farms, okay? So we're talking about here the people of Staffordshire. There's about 4,500, 5,000 acres planned for solar farms and best energy storage systems in Staffordshire. So we just want to have some clarity. I would rather pass the motion today so we get moving and look for some feedback from the central government on this. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can we have a vote on the amendment, Councillor Rose's amendment to the motion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. No. Thank you. I think that's clear. And is there any further debate on Councillor Minor's motion? No? Okay. And can we have a vote on Councillor Minor's motion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. And all those against say no. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Oh, sorry. I missed that time. What was that? I missed. Oh, right. Okay, abstention. Sorry. Oh, yeah, abstentions. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Right. Back to item 6 and point 2. As Councillor Cooper is not present to move the motion he has submitted, I move that the motion be withdrawn. Is that agreed? Moving on to item 7, changes to the Constitution. Councillor Murray, will you move the consideration of the recommendations, please?
Yes, I move for this constitutional change. For the purpose has already been brought forward and approval to ensure that the consistency between the amended shareholder agreement of Nexus and the Constitution of Staffordshire County Council. The change will remove the risk of ambiguity regarding the authority to approve, appoint or remove directors on the board of LATCO. This has been adjudicated already and I move for this to be accepted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you. Do you wish to reserve the right to speak? Anyone? No. Any concluding remarks, Councillor Murray? Any other speakers, just in case they missed that? Right, okay. Councillor Murray, any further remarks?
No, I just put this forward. I put this forward to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the recommendations contained in the report be approved. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item 8, appointment of Chairman and Vice-Chairmen of committees. Councillor Bagley, will you move the consideration of the report, please?
Good afternoon. I move for consideration the changes to the committees for Vice-Chair and Chair. Thank you.
Do you wish to reserve the right to speak? Any speakers? No? What's that? All right. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Broom. Well, again, do you wish to reserve the right to speak? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the recommendations contained in the report be approved. Is that agreed? Aye. Thank you. Item 9, report of the Chairman of the Police, Fire and Crime Panel. Councillor Screen, will you move the consideration of the report, please?
I will, Chair. Thank you.
I move that the report be received. Is that agreed? Aye. Thank you. Item 10, questions under Standing Order 8. Members, the 15 questions and answers have been circulated to members and published on our website. In accordance with the usual procedure, the questions and answers will be taken as read. I will allow each questioner 5 minutes in which to ask a supplementary question and to receive an answer. No debate is allowed on questions. Councillor Farrell to Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I do have a supplementary. Thank you, Councillor Murray, for your answer. I find it quite troubling. You put a link on there to minutes. So I've gone onto that link, 24 pages of minutes, of which Birmingham is mentioned 3 times, twice in a factual context, and once, and I quote, Lichfield District Council has previously considered joining the WMCA. For those who don't know, that's the West Midlands Combined Authority. However, concerns over the possibility of Lichfield being required to take on more of Birmingham's housing numbers stopped us from joining. So I do go back to the question I asked Councillor Murray, and I'd like to know, is it that you don't know the difference between the West Midlands Combined Authority and Birmingham City Council? Did you misspeak, or are you purposely trying to mislead the council? Thank you.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you. Grammar and sentence is everything, and you tend to lose it when you just snip down a single phrase and repeat it 1,000 times across all social medias. And it was in the answer, the written answer. And I did say they were looking towards Birmingham. And then I said, we could. Big key difference there. There's a full stop, it's a separate sentence. Could lose that cathedral city to Birmingham City Council. And where else has Lichfield been looking towards Birmingham for? I mean, I wonder why Lichfield is not a member of Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce. It is in Staffordshire after all, but no, a member of Birmingham's. It's out of Tamworth. The LVEP, Local Visitor Economy Partnership. Everybody in Staffordshire is a member. Lichfield, the Conservative leadership of the District Council, Conservative County Council there. No, don't want to join it. We're going to UK Reef this year, again. It's a huge conference. And this is where major developers go. It's where you look for that big infrastructure. Those big developers come in to really ignite a town, a business. Every district, borough, they're all coming. Not Lichfield. No, they've sectioned yourself off from Staffordshire for some reason. And it's not in recent months. No. This has gone on for a few years, by the way. And it comes even more to why you'd even be exposed to Birmingham City Council. And I have mentioned this before. During the binge strike that went on, the first area outside of the West Midlands Combined Authority sending troops to help Birmingham City's council strike was Lichfield. Admirable. They billed them at the standard rate. But seeing as Birmingham is basically already, one for a better word, bankrupt, it did fall for its Section 114 in September 2023. I have searched, they have not yet been paid, and the likelihood of them ever being paid for that service is very unlikely, to say the least, certainly as the strike carries on. I mean, their own economic reports, and it's throughout there, they continually mention their links towards Birmingham, their businesses, their work, their culture, their societal. And then you have the permanent comments on there in recent months about saying, what does Lichfield have to do with the likes of Stoke? What does Lichfield have in common with the Moorlands? They've permanently ostracised themselves from our county, from this county, from the people of Lichfield who know they belong to, who want to be in Staffordshire. So yes, you are looking towards Birmingham. It is written because you've written it yourselves. How is a single point that's a lie? Maybe the company that was set up, the West Midlands company that was set up, limited company as a Lichfield, didn't set up one called Staffordshire. No, West Midlands.
Thank you. Item 2, Councillor Rose to Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do have a supplement question. I guess I have to firstly apologise as the acting leader hasn't really had time to consider the role due to the new position he's had. But the answers given here are very wishy-washy and very generic answers. Local investment, efficiency and economic development. Really, I want some substance. What specific initiatives are these local investments, this efficiency, what specific initiatives are going to be pursued? I understand that the leader might not have the answers at the time because he is new, but please can we actually have some specific policies rather than just general wishy-washy statements on local investment? What does that mean? Thank you.
Councillor Murray.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this political assistance. It's not a strange position. It's actually quite the normal across this country. I mean, North Devon, South Cambridgeshire, Warwickshire, Gloucestershire. You know, there's quite a lot of unitaries, boroughs, councils, city councils that have this position. The previous administration years ago had a similar role, just under a different name, as we've shown before, and that was a paid role. So it's quite a normal position. This is held across many councils, many unitaries, and even at borough council level. And where does it lie? Well, it lies in all of those, and most of it is on that unknown. How do you know what to go and ask? How do you know what you can go and put forward and push and research? Now, we have great officers here, but their role is that to be politically unbiased, to do that job, and it is brilliant. But sometimes you want to go and search, well, how do you do that under a political framework as well? And that's where this role comes in. And this is why so many areas have them. It went through absolute due process. The interview stage, multiple stages, the way this has been paid, again, went through the full system. And we come back to why these systems are in place. A person has, and in fact, I do not even know I've forgotten the person's name. I've only briefly been told who it was. Went through absolute due process and was chosen on merit for the role and the tasks at hand. It's a great role. It will bring great benefit to every area in Staffordshire. And the proof of that is why so many places have one, is that it helps so much within that internal structure. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Councillor Rose. No. Question 3, Councillor White to Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. Before I ask my supplementary question, I've just got a point of clarification for the monitoring officer, if she would be so kind. Could the monitoring officer please clarify on what basis the complaints against Councillor Mason regarding his social media activity were not progressed by the council? And then I'll ask my supplementary.
Kate Loder, could you please respond?
Thank you, Chairman. The posts made by Councillor Mason were made in 23-24 before his election as a county councillor in May 2025. Staffordshire County Council's Code of Conduct only applies to actions taken by councillors and therefore does not apply in this case. The matter was referred to Reform UK for their consideration.
Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the monitoring officer for that clarification. So my question to Councillor Murray is, in view of the fact that he has decided not to dismiss Councillor Mason, does that mean that Councillor Mason's views, as expressed in his social media posts, are consistent with Reform UK's values? I would also ask him to reflect on that over the holiday period and consider whether Peter Mason's continued membership of Cabinet is appropriate.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you. And I thank you for the manner and the respect in that response there. It is how it should be delivered. And that is respect, and that needs acknowledgement. I said about due process, due procedure, we mentioned it a lot. And it did go through the Reform UK due process. And just say that due process does not act expediently and with absolute ferocity, I'd say, and it'd be hard to disagree at times, seeing where I am sat right now, shows that they do not take these actions lightly or where things sit. And due process has to be adhered to. Now, these decisions were taken. I'm now in a brand new role. I'll adhere to what has been done because it has already been done. It is in the past, and we move forwards. We must accept where things have been done, where apologies have actually been made. And there's a note actually within the prayer today about forgiveness, about moving on. And if we all forget that point about acceptance of mistakes of one's past, of misunderstanding of where something may have laid to where it is today, and I'm sorry then our society is in real trouble. Because that prayer meant quite a lot to those last bits. I think we should all rehear it again. It's an essence that runs through all of us and should do at all times. And for those reasons only, I'll come back to my original statement that anything that going forward from now, due process will come forward and I will act. Do not doubt my integrity. I have seen true horrors of this world. I've witnessed it, I've stepped in, I've been that active bystander. No, I will not accept it. But where it has been done, due process has been delivered. We now must move forward together to get jobs done. And on that, I hope we can all agree on everything. Thank you.
Question 4, Councillor Beardmore to Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Coles, for your answer. I do have a supplementary question. Given these examples of bespoke costs and missed opportunities, what steps will you take to ensure future investment decisions are properly scrutinised, delivered for value for money and focus on spaces that sustain libraries and communities?
Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Beardmore. So, in the previous meeting that we had, we talked about the costs of over £1 million on Burton Library. Before I came in, many costs have been put forward. So, Wombourne Library is going to look lovely, but over £200,000 has been spent. Once again, up to nearly £10,000 on a sensory nook, £2,500 on a sensory wall, £17,500 on a bespoke shelving. So one of my things that I've done since I've come in is we've done a whole due diligence. We're looking at all the costs, including the furniture, because every pound matters to taxpayers' money, and every pound needs to go further. So that's why we've consulted with our residents to find out what they need, how they're using our libraries, to make sure that we can design those in the best way. The previous designs were mostly by architects, which is great, but then when you walk through, anyone can see it's not so much of a welcome space, and the whole brief was it needs to be a welcoming, safe space. So we're already on making changes on that to make sure that it meets that criteria. Then you go to even things like the chairs. They're over £1,000 for a chair. But, we can't continue like that. Every penny is taxpayers' money. So I'm looking at low-cost alternatives, but there'll be quality. Because at the end of the day, there's many more things now, more adaptable furniture, making sure that it can mobilise them, making sure that more libraries can get investment in them. So instead of inflating costs, we're looking at how we can do it better for the taxpayers. The library investment funding, for instance, was used on some of these before we came in, and it was believed it could only be used for the library, but just a quick look at that, actually it can be used for community-facing areas to support sustainability more. So the biggest oversight of the previous administration was in libraries such as Burton, such as Wombourne, where the key income generators, which are the ancillary buildings such as your meeting rooms, your halls, that already Barclays Bank in Wombourne were paying money to sit in, oh no, they just left them. We're looking a mess. And actually, the hall in Wombourne, when I went and looked, there was a hole. The people are playing boxing in there with the police. They've got dramatic societies in there. The electrics weren't suitable. There wasn't fire regulations put in place. Is that good ownership if we care so much about our communities? But it feels like a consistent failure to me, and that's why we stood. Removing all this political stuff, I've stood as a taxpayer because I cared about the way this country and our spend is going. So obviously I'm doing a field review at the moment. I'm putting in tighter controls, practical, flexible layouts, income generation to ensure that put forward a marketing plan, meeting rooms and other areas are considered. I've visited all the community libraries. The comment to me was, we've never seen our county councillor before. So let's be clear about this. The consultation has been happening, and as we're talking about social media and integrity right now, to actually use that for political scaremongering is totally unacceptable. And it breaches standards, misleads residents who deserve facts, not fear. So, was it driven by the leader of the opposition, Councillor White, and Councillor Holland, because of the 9 petitions under the administration in 2014 with over 8,000 signatures when they proposed to cut staff, building maintenance and cause widespread concern? So they now know how fear escalates. Look at what happened today. They are putting us at risk by snipping information where they had an email that said this was not going to be cutting anything, but instead they went out on social media and once again cutting and editing for political gain instead of supporting the hard-working taxpayers of Staffordshire.
Question 5, Councillor Nixon to Councillor Murray and Councillor Coles.
Point of order. Excuse me.
Point of order. Yes, please. Sorry? What do we... Oh, right. Okay, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Coles, I emailed you 10 days ago and asked you to confirm whether you'd be looking at closing any libraries and if you could confirm that you wouldn't be as part of the consultation. I've yet to have the courtesy of a reply. Could you perhaps give us an answer now?
At the moment, they're going through standards, so I'm waiting a reply from the standards, so I do not want to reply. I do not want to interfere with you without interference politically. And I believe you can read. The attached email clearly stated that. Do I need to spell it out for you again?
Thank you. Question 5, Councillor Nixon to Councillor Murray, Councillor Coles. Thank you. We'll move on. Question 6, Councillor Allen to Councillor Mylands.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your answer, Councillor Miners. Given the growing problem of nitrous oxide canisters littering our streets, and they're posing the risk to our children, increasing the clean-up costs and fuelling antisocial behaviour, will the Cabinet member commit to working with Councillor Screen to help deliver joined-up strategy for tackling both the environmental and the community safety aspects of this? Thank you.
Councillor Miners.
Thank you very much, Councillor Aaron, for that question. Yes, we are. We want to make a new campaign launch in the new year to provide clear guidance on the cylinders that should never be put into household waste or recycling and should instead be taken to the designated disposal points which will be made available to our household waste recycling centres. However, I would like to elaborate in the time I'm allocated here to say that the presence of gas and nitrous oxide canisters in household waste is becoming an escalating issue for waste sector in Staffordshire. This problem affects both the waste recovery centres, such as W2R in South Staffordshire, and our frontline waste collection teams throughout Staffordshire. Although it's difficult to determine the exact number of canisters entering the waste stream, they're often hidden within the household bins. A recent audit at W2R, that's Four Ashes Energy Recovery Facility, estimated there are 70 canisters passed through the system each week. The impact and risks here the damage caused and risks to the personnel may vary depending on size and type of the contents of the canister, as well as the point at which the explosion occurs. I'll come on to the explosion a little bit later. During collection, explosions during the waste collection process can cause significant damage to the collection vehicles and potentially to the surrounding public property and, of course, the crews. At the processing facilities, explosions at the waste processing sites can damage critical infrastructure, shredders and furnaces. And we're going to release a video about this where it's actually happening in one of our facilities. These incidents frequently result in the operational downtime and substantial financial cost, which is then impacting into the Staffordshire as a whole and the residents and taxpayers. Recent incident examples. Example 1, the shredder explosion. In July this year, a large explosion occurred here, causing a canister hidden in delivered waste, ignited a fire in the waste bunker below. The fire was controlled using the crane to transfer burning waste into the furnace hopper, and a secondary fire later occurred in the shred access room, prompting a brief evacuation. You can imagine the cost impact of this. Both fires were extinguished quickly, allowing operations to continue. Repairs to the shredder required bulky waste to be diverted for under a week and resulting in operational disruption and additional costs. Example 2, boiler damage. In late June this year, damage was identified at grate bars in boiler 2, believed to have been caused by an explosion from unsuitable waste. Repairs required boiler 2 to be taken offline for 34 hours, creating further operational disruption and financial impact. So we will be working on this in the new year. I hope we have the full support from everyone in Staffordshire to highlight this risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Woods to Councillor Coles.
Thank you. I do have a supplementary question. Given the scale of the backlog on the rights-of-way cases and the cuts made by the previous administration, how do you plan to tackle the challenging area moving forward, which seems an almost impossible task?
Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Woods. So the current situation we find ourselves in is a result of successive restructures and erosive cutbacks by the previous administration, prioritising short-term savings over statutory obligations. The previous administration's attendance at the Committee of Rights of Way was near zero, showing a due lack of care, which they've mentioned time again about caring for the people of Staffordshire. I think this example again follows on. So they're now unable to meet basic legal requirements. It's creating a significant legal and reputational risk for the council. The impact on tourism, the economy and negligence threatens Cannot Chase, the Staffordshire Way, the rural network, undermining confidence in the stewardship. So years of underinvestment has meant it cannot be fixed once identified, and there's a huge amount of work and an additional investment needed. So I commissioned an efficiency review again, looking at the best business case recovery and at speed, due to the pressures, the overhead staffing left us, and looking forward to LGR. So with the new thinking, not just throwing away money at the problem, so I'm looking at technology, AI solutions to accelerate the process and reduce the costs and mitigate legal and reputational risk. I've initiated joined-up working with the connectivity and highways portfolios and coordinated response supporting statutory compliance and strategic priorities. A commitment to deliver a sustainable solution that restores confidence, protects our countryside and ensures Staffordshire remains a tourism and outdoor recreation destination that is safe to attend. It's important to note that these challenges will take significant time and investment to overcome, which I cannot do overnight, but I will do my best.
Thank you. Question 7, Councillor Hodges to Councillor Lakin.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the answer to my written question. Could the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People please highlight the results of previous inspections?
Councillor Lakin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hodges. Between 2018 and 2023, there were 6 further inspections, And there are three persistent themes within those inspections. One is cuts to the budget made by the Tory administration at the time. Repeat failures were identified in all of those 6 inspections. And Councillor White's fingerprints were all over the report and the process engaged in those reports. But for example, in 2018, the focus visit to Staffordshire County Council Children's Services identified that changes were delayed for reasons outside of the control of children's services. Cuts. There was a rise in workload for the social workers, excessively high caseloads for social workers. Senior leaders who recognised that improvement to the service must be made as quickly as possible, and then the subsequent reports showed that they weren't. Supervision records lacked sufficient evaluation and smart actions. The inspector saw that significant gaps in children's case files existed, which put children at risk. In January 2019, there was a SEND inspection, joint SEND inspection. Her Majesty's Chief Inspector determined that a written statement of action was required because of significant areas of weakness. Children and young people with SEND in Staffordshire didn't achieve well and were often ill-prepared for the next stages of their education and employment training. Ineffective leadership, again, political and obviously, unfortunately, officer as well, which resulted in a fragmented and dysfunctional approach to education, health and care agencies working together. Children and young people with SEND have not received a consistently strong service. Leaders have been very slow to bring together a single vision and strategy for improvement. And it goes on and it goes on. And then in February 2019, there was another inspection of children's services. The experience and progress of children who need help and protection requires improvement. What needed to be improved, the length of time, a small cohort of children remained subject to child protection plans. They were just too long, weren't dealt with. The local authority response to children exposed to contextualised risk is not well developed and joined up. The effectiveness of return home interviews for children who repeatedly go missing were inadequate, required improvement. The effectiveness of the response to young people who present as homeless required improvement. The rise in electively home-educated pupils have been significant, and there is very limited challenge or safeguarding checks for those families. The effectiveness of the response to care leavers, who the local authority are not in touch with, required improvement. In 2022, there was a joint SEND revisit to Staffordshire. More areas requiring improvement. July 2022, a focus visit into Staffordshire where, in all honesty, the Tory administration thought they were good, when in fact they were bordering on inadequate, but there was a lot of requires improvement. Subsequently, we come to today, or this week, when we've had the inspection, and hopefully there will be improvement. But that just gives you a flavour of those improvements. The failings sat across there. Some of them are still here. So that's where children were let down in this county by the previous Tory administration.
Thank you. On to question 9. Councillor Dean to Councillor Large.
Thank you, Chair. I have a supplementary question. Can I ask the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources if the resultant cuts in spending brought by the previous administration has seriously damaged children and families?
Thank you.
Councillor Large.
Thank you very much. Hello, councillors. Our children and families were in crisis, and this is because of the previous administration, the lack of their poor leadership and fiscal responsibility. The service has had cuts of 47 million in the last 10 years. Over the past 10 years, we've had, as you've heard from my colleague, that Ofsted have been in and constantly criticised for inadequate performance and needing improvement. In 2022, there was a new structure which was overseen, and strangely, by peer of their absence, the leader who was now deputy leader at the time, and also our other councillor is on, and a member of the public today was our previous cabinet member for children. And interestingly is they oversaw the structuring in 2022. Now, if we shoot forward to our new Director of Children and Families, which has been praised heavily by our Councillor for Children and Families on the opposition, said last week at scrutiny it was inappropriate and ill-conceived. This has led to a plethora of problems and failings and shortcomings on KPIs, putting Staffordshire children at risk. Oh, he's come back now, so it's good to hear. There were, as a result of that, the Director of Children and Families also left, and several senior people. So, whilst this has been happening in 22-23, the opposition and the previous administration decided to cut 2.3 million more and 1.9 million more from it. When we came into administration this year at our efficiency review, we were looking at what the previous administration had put up, and they were going to take another 3 million out of children and families for this year. So can you imagine it? In 25 weeks, the problems that we've had. We had a cabinet meeting yesterday where our new Director of Family and Children made a great presentation, and what happened was we had to input £5.5 million to bring the service back to a standard. So the children of Staffordshire going forward can rely on reform administration to protect them. The upshot of this was that the previous administration spent 2 hours moaning about a send person for £14,000, but they took 47 million out of this service, and we are in a dire strait now. I don't know about you, but I think that our people of Staffordshire, children of Staffordshire and family of Staffordshire, deserved a damn sight more than the poor quality management that they oversaw.
Question 10, Councillor Edwards to Councillor Large.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Large, for your written response. I do have a supplementary. Can I ask the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources to confirm that the previous Conservative administration wasted taxpayers' money on a CIC organisation, and why did the service mysteriously appear in-house?
Councillor Large.
This, I've requested several times from a number of our departments. You know, at the moment we're looking at our charities, because I believe that we've not had the right level of due diligence and the level of audit that we should have had on these organisations. This one particular instance, we've mentioned it before, we gave £2 million to a refugee charity that had an 80% ratio of staffing costs. We now have a team of 18 full-time heads managing £13.6 million worth of charity money, government grant money. What's noticeable to me is that when we get government grant money, be it in Ofsted, where we can have a half a dozen teams spending money, where we've got another group of people that's been put through grant money, there seems to be a really serious lack of due diligence and control over some of those areas. And so what I would like to do is propose in 2026, that we take a stronger look at the protocols and principles and we tighten our controls, because you've heard me say it before, grant money doesn't come from a grant tree. This is taxpayers' money, and we should have massively great control over it and not just think that we can throw this money away. Thank you.
Question 11, Councillor Wallins to Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Higgins. The costs do seem very high indeed. My question to you is, what has been done to reduce them, and what are the alternative models that are being considered? Thank you.
Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wallins. I've got to say, unfortunately, I do agree with Councillor Large and Councillor Lakin. I'm afraid the previous administration have let the young people of Staffordshire down. The SEND system, I couldn't believe my eyes when I first joined as Cabinet Member for Education and SEND, when I realised how the service was being run. It was absolutely awful, and I just don't know how you all can think that you gave a good service for children and young people. But anyway, I'm going to move on and answer the question to Councillor Williams. I need to give you some figures, really. I don't know whether anybody else has seen these figures, but the highest cost for home-to-school transport for a young person per year is £72,158. And the highest school placement cost for a young person in Staffordshire is £170,046. I just want to give you a bit of background knowledge to where these figures come from. It's to do with the legal requirements that we have to follow, the reason some of these costs are so high. Staffordshire supports over 9,700 children and young people with educational health and healthcare plans. We provide transport for 2,890. Of those, 290 travel in single occupancy vehicles. Statutory guidelines require safe, comfortable travel with minimal stress and journey times. So for primary child, it's 45 minutes, no longer. For secondary pupils, it's 75 minutes. So all of these requirements have to be taken into account when coming up with a taxi transport for a young person. Single occupancy taxis are provided on factors such as child's needs, home and school location, number of pupils attending and journey time. So again, all that has to be taken into place. So when you look at the highest taxi, that's £72,158. That will be for a young person that possibly has to have a personal assistant with them and all that sort of thing. So you can see the costs are quite high. So what are we doing as a Cabinet, and what am I doing as a Cabinet Member for Education and SEND? Transport is one of my responsibilities. So what we're looking at is looking at bringing better sharing of taxis. So we're looking at routes, we're looking at young people, we're looking at all the various things that we have to look at to try and put more children into taxis. We're also looking at issues that are legal that we can't change at the moment without lobbying the government, and that's what we're going to do as a cabinet. There are issues that we could do and change those costings, but we can't. We need the government to support us on that. So we're going to lobby the government. We've brought in and we're bringing in a new vacant seat policy that was discontinued by the previous administration. So that meant some families, our Staffordshire County Council bus service will go past their home, and young mainstream children couldn't catch the bus because we hadn't got a policy, because for some reason the previous administration decided to get rid of it. So we're going to bring that back to make sure all our taxis, all our minibuses are compliance for disabilities and all, accessible, so that mainstream young people can actually buy a seat on one of our buses. So that will give us an income, and that will help the families, which is, again, is important. It's all about cost cutting, but we have to make sure we still deliver the service and look after our young people. The second thing we're doing to improve the standards of our taxis and our transport is improving provider standards from what was in place, again, under the previous administration. We're introducing mandatory basic English and first aid training for all our drivers and our personal assistants. And that will be, in the new terms and conditions. And sorry, I haven't answered about the
No, I'm sorry, Councillor Higgins, your time's out. Sorry. On to question 12, Councillor Orlandi Fantini to Councillor Large.
Thank you, Chair. So my question, if I can ask the Member for Finance and Resources to confirm reform strategy on borrowing and what other savings we can expect to see.
Councillor Large.
Well, just to clarify, for a certain number of councillors who are struggling with this one, when we came into administration, one of the things that we promised, we said that we wanted to lower the debt, we wanted to lower the costs, improve efficiency, and where possible, lower council tax increases. So it was a commitment that whenever, and we make it clear, when we said lower the debt first and foremost, if we get the chance to do it, lower the debt, and we remove £15 million worth of debt, and that has saved taxpayers money for Staffordshire. In the efficiency review, we found financial efficiencies, further financial efficiencies, and we've also started to evidence efficiencies in workforce. You've heard me say before, our £1 million 10-year temporary worker, our £500,000 temporary worker for 5 years, £2 million on a day rate team under a grant, I should add. And we've also stopped the consultancy services. But our big commitment is that we want to lower council tax increases, but most importantly is without losing one service. And I'm sure everybody in this side would agree that we will work determined to do that. Interestingly is that when we came in a couple of months ago, we had a couple of comments from over on the other side. They're saying, will you honour our £95 million savings? Well, one of those savings, in other words, cuts, was a £3 million children and families cut. So does anybody on this side want to cut £3 million off it? No, we don't. So they also decided that they'd make some cash because they've got £250,000 in their project from parents who've been fined for taking them out of school. So we won't be doing that either. And finally in their scheme, and we've already mentioned it earlier today, in their scheme they had Bez farms on our county farms and £1 million. Well, I can assure you, our county farms are for growing food, and under no circumstances, we didn't sell off our farms like they did. What was it, 34 farms they sold off over the years, selling off the family silver? So we won't be doing their 5-year plan, we'll be doing our own. We will gain our efficiencies. We won't be cutting £3 million off children and family again. I don't know. You see, they're looking both sat there smiling over there. Really crazy. Well, and you said it. You praised Bernie Brown and you said, it's such a breath of fresh air. It's great what you're doing. Councillor Wilson said on children and families, it's like watching new green shoots. You should be ashamed, particularly that gentleman sat on the end there, because he was deputy leader at the time. We will invest £5.5 million.
Point of order, please.
Yeah, of course you can. Thank you very much, Chairman. I mean, shocking for Councillor Large to say that I should be ashamed today, but could Councillor Large please stick to answering the question?
Councillor Large.
Question. And that is that we will be investing £5.5 million in children and family to make our parent and children safe. We won't be putting BES on county farms, and we will not be cutting our service, and we will do our damnedest over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And just to answer the point for Councillor Greatrix, the reason why there's been a delay is really simple. We had the Fair Price Funding Review, which didn't come in until the 3rd week of November, and we had a budget. So we decided to take the time out and get all of the information for that before we put it out further, and that is the reason why we did it. Simple and factual. Thank you.
Question 13, Councillor Machin to Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair. Could the Cabinet Member for Education and SEND outline how Section 106 developer contributions are being utilised to support education infrastructure across the county? In particular, how is the funding prioritised to ensure adequate school places, improvements to facilities and provision for special educational needs and disabilities in response to housing growth? Thank you.
Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Councillor Machin. Again, what I've found since joining Education and SEND is that I've only found this recently, that the S106 funding can be used for SEND placements, which I didn't realise when I first came here. I noticed that we were getting S106 funding for new schools and new placements at schools, which was good. I was really pleased for that. So to answer your question, Councillor, S106 funding is for new developments where the infrastructure needs to be put in place. They'll bring it in for roads, you know, for playgrounds, whatever is needed for that development. And obviously, they'll bring it in for education where new schools are needed or new placements. Just recently, I was looking at the paperwork for this S106 funding, and I found that we could do a claim for SEND provision. So I asked officers why we hadn't been claiming for that, and they said that they hadn't got capacity. So I spoke to Cabinet, I spoke to a finance member, and we decided to look into possibly recruiting a worker to concentrate on looking at S106 funding for education provision on a 2-year placement. So we've decided that that's what we're going to do, take that forward. So for a 2-year placement for somebody to work on getting us extra SEND provision, which is desperately needed, as we all know, it'll cost us roughly £232,000 over 2 years. I asked officers to give me just a guideline of how much funding, because I know how this came up. I went to Kerborough to look at the new development in Lichfield. They've got 1,200 new houses, and they're going to have a school. And when I asked officers if they could just tell me how much money we could have made if we'd have gone for SEND as well, what he said was, you know, this is only a rough thing, but using the methodology, oh, can't get my teeth in now, you know what I mean, methodologically, you can all say that for me, in the SEICP, 1,200 homes equals 5.88 primary SEND pupils and 11.52 secondary SEND pupils, totalling £461,744. Primary SEND is 1,244,252, secondary SEND. So with a grand total of £1,705,996, in excess of £1.7 million, we have possibly lost by not putting a worker in place to look at the SEND funding with the S106. So I can't understand why we haven't done that before. And I can only say it was another mistake possibly from the previous administration, but we're not going to make that mistake. And I went to Beaconside yesterday where there's a massive development. They're building a new school, and I'll make sure that we're definitely on there for the S106 funding for education and SEND. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to question 14. Councillor Parton to Councillor Screen. Well, moving on to the last question. Councillor Humphreys to Councillor Lakin. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Lakin, for your comprehensive answer to my written question. Can I please ask, surely the previous Tory administration could see they were failing the children of Staffordshire by failing to follow the expert feedback provided as a result of the inspection. So why did they proceed with even more cuts?
Councillor Lakin, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Craig. You've just heard from Councillor Large the fact that there's been £47 million worth of cuts in children and families and SEND since 2016 by the previous administration. All I can say is shame on them for that. They literally took the bread out of the mouths of Staffordshire babes. A portion of those cuts were during the time that Councillor White was Deputy Leader. During their time in office, the Tory administration deluded themselves that the service was good, despite findings by independent experts to the contrary. They were subsequently found to be marking their own homework and thought they were better at understanding the complexities of SEND and children and families than the experts. That, for me, shows arrogance. Indeed, some officers I've consulted are of the opinion the inspection in 2023 should have been graded as inadequate, not just requires improvement. The service was so bad. Now, to be fair to the Tories, if I must, they were being advised by previous Director of Children and Families and the previous Chief Executive of the Council, both no longer employed by Staffordshire County Council. But the Tory administration consistently failed to do, what the Tory administration failed to do between 2018 and 2023 was lift up the bonnet and look and have a proper look underneath and see the challenges and challenge the officers and investigate why there were so many requires improvement comments and findings and the repeated failures identified in the inspections. In addition, they put into place a top-down structural reorganisation of children and families and SEND that was doomed to fail. They failed to apply rigour to their decisions. They failed to listen to the workforce. They failed to listen to the children and the families. A total dereliction of duty. This resulted in Staffordshire County Council acting illegally on their watch. And again, shame on you. Now, with the Reform UK administration in charge, with the excellent work of the current Director of Children and Families, Bernie Brown, and her excellent officers, we are rectifying the calamitous actions of the previous Tory administration. But it doesn't stop there. The Tories are still either unwilling or incapable of lifting up the bonnet. Perhaps they need a hanged manual, something like that. I know that Councillor Wilson is the shadow portfolio holder for children and young persons. Not once has she spoken to me about that portfolio. Not once has she offered any help, and not once has she asked me any questions. Indeed, in a recent safeguarding and education Oversight and Security Committee on the 4th of December, she was more concerned with researching Reform UK members than concentrating on the two very important papers that were before her from children and families. Maybe, I don't know, perhaps she was still wants to defect to Reform and was looking for a suitable sponsor. Who knows? Councillor White, you might want to change her portfolio role to highways. You know, she seems pretty apt at standing in puddles at the Stew Pony complaining about flooding. A problem now solved by Reform UK after 14 years of inadequate work. This Reform UK administration has lifted up the bonnet in children and families and SEND. We've looked underneath and are working with the Chief Executive of the Staffordshire County Council, the Director of Children and Families and SEND, their officers, the frontline staff, and we are putting into place a restructure of the service that is fit for purpose, and this will be legal and will be accredited to Staffordshire. This Reform UK administration is totally supportive of children and families and SEND. Our Staffordshire children are top priority. They are the future of Staffordshire, the beating heart of Staffordshire. As such, we will invest, as Councillor Large has said, in children and families and SEND services. This commitment was made clear to the members of the Ofsted inspection last week and yesterday, and they were extremely appreciative of our political commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11, petitions. Yes, please. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, we've heard about the previous administration's ineptitudes, and they've labelled us as not doing the job. There is plenty of councillors here today who have stayed and done the job. I would like to ask Councillor White, because it's come to my knowledge.
Sorry, it's not that's not a point of order.
You've left the chamber
Councillor Brown,
to do an interview. Can you
Councillor,
confirm
Councillor,
that?
please, can you sit down? Please, can you sit down? Thank you. Councillor White.
Thank you very much. I will just rise to confirm. Just leave the chamber for a couple of moments.
Sorry, Councillor Broom.
Well, thank you very much for that. I left the council chamber for a couple of moments and I returned, but I will also take the opportunity to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas.
Wish to present? No, thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. Thank you very much.